Let's go. Hey, happy Friday, you all, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It's Modern Manhood Masterclass. As you all are aware, me and Dr. Damon have a personal development group that is especially for men to create a self-refuge and have conversation and dialogue with the things that impact men. Today, I'm excited as usual. I'm usually excited, but I'm pretty excited about bringing on a good friend, therapist, counselor, my man Clinton Patton, who is a therapist who is actually hosting an event for domestic awareness. This is Domestic Awareness Violence Month. We wanted to go ahead and bring somebody in that specializes, that has a heart for this. Ever since I've known Clinton, this has been something that he has spearheaded. He spearheaded. A lot of people talk about domestic violence and how it impacts home, but he has been personally impacted in this particular type of situation. It's not only impacted his life, but I believe his sister was impacted in this, and he started a foundation from her and actually created an amazing foundation that helps many individuals in regards to domestic violence. So, bro, I appreciate you sharing the platform with us. I'm really grateful to have you here, not just because of this, but also because of mental health. I know that you're very passionate about this in regards to mental health and trauma, especially in our culture. I've seen you speak on this. My man is also an author. He has done foundations, he's done galas, he's done a lot of different things. So you're actually hosting an event coming up shortly. So tell us, how did you get involved? And then tell us a little bit about yourself and then your event as well. And he's a motivational speaker too. Let's go.
Hey, thank you. First of all, thanks for having me on the platform. Um, I started in 2007 after my sister was murdered by her boyfriend. And I came to a point in my life where I was going to have to make a decision. I began to become angry and I started to, pretty much plan out the details on how I was going to murder the dude who killed my sister.
Wow.
But then I began to think about, am I that type of person and what good would that do? Would that bring my sister back? And my son, I was like, man, my son don't need to be another kid without a father. So I decided that I was going to do something about it, and I stopped attacking the person and started attacking domestic violence as a concept.
Wow, that's dope.
That's important, man. What
Yep.
are some things? I mean, that's pretty difficult because we lose people often, but it's not too often we lose people to domestic violence, or at least when it does
Mm-hmm.
happen, it's not anything that's publicly broadcasted as far as the occurrence of this happens. How do you feel like it's been a journey impacting your life in regards to this? Because it's difficult to help people heal of such a problem that's in our culture.
Well, first and foremost, we have to look at our traditions, and our traditions are set up for us to
Mm,
be divided. Our
tell us about it.
relationship traditions are dysfunctional and they're maladaptive. And if you keep doing the wrong thing, you're gonna get the same result, or you keep doing things that you know to be wrong or know to be maladaptive, then you're gonna pass those down from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking about domestic violence is like when people hear the words domestic violence, they strictly think physical, and they think that it's always a man against man on a woman or whatever. So what I've learned is that we have to learn to target the trauma, the childhood trauma associated with being a victim of child abuse, which is also domestic violence, or a
Mm-hmm.
victim of an indirect victim of domestic violence, meaning a child that witnesses domestic violence that may not be hit or anything like that, but they witness a parent, a man or a woman going through that. Those are indirect victims of domestic violence. Um, trauma bonds. Trauma bonds are so powerful because what happens is some people confuse those trauma bonds with soul ties. Trauma
Mm-hmm.
bonds involve fear. Trauma bonds involve fear. It is very impossible to love someone from a traumatic mind state. Soul ties are
Mm.
about peace. Soul ties are about peace, and that's where love lies within soul ties. And it's very possible to confuse the two because once you live in an environment that shows you that love is supposed to hurt, you believe that you're supposed to hurt and that you're supposed to live in chaos. You know, the
Absolutely.
mind is a wonderful thing when it's used for the right things. However, when we're talking about abusive relationships, we can talk about the relationship. If we just remove the title of marriage, you won't have a healthy marriage if your relationship isn't healthy, because the marriage is the title of a relationship that is legally bonded, you know,
Hmm.
is legal pretty much.
Right.
But we forget to focus on the relationship. Marriage is supplemental. The
Right.
relationship is extremely important. So when we learn these maladaptive behaviors and we continue to pass them down, in example, when I speak about whoopings and what they do for children and stuff like that, um, very defensive, very, very defensive. And when I say
Hmm.
defensive, I mean like whoop. They say people say things like, "Well, if I wouldn't have got those whoopings, then I wouldn't be where I am today." And in my mind, I'm like, if I wouldn't have got those whoopings, I don't know where I'd be today. I would be more emotionally available. I would have
Absolutely.
emotional competence. I would I would understand that love doesn't hurt. I
Right.
would know that I don't have to use physical violence to get my needs met. You know, these are things
Right.
that some of our men and women are suffering from.
That's a good point.
I think that's important to say. So, because
Yeah.
sometimes I mean, there's a difference between abuse and discipline. And
Right.
if you've been trained up, and that's something I had to learn because man, I was abused quite a bit growing up.
Mm.
I even see TikTok videos and it triggers me, or it triggers me to see a parent yelling at a kid or demeaning a kid as a form of control over a kid, completely like diminishing their sense of value. You know what I'm saying? And not really challenging our frame of reference. Like it took a lot for me to truly understand, wow, I have a lot of things that's broken in me because of the way I was raised and how it was normalized. And I think that it's difficult to have that kind of conversation with the person because they feel like you're challenging the sense of their authority or their leadership whenever we have conversations like this. So I know you're dealing with this. How do you approach it in conversating with a person so they can be open-minded to realizing what they're doing may not be the most effective way and approach to handling their family?
Well, I also do marriage and family counseling, do couples counseling as well. And so I'll give an example. I had a guy to come in first, and he was saying that his at the time his child's mother had been quote unquote tripping, and you know he don't understand what she was tripping about, and you know things of that sort. And so I told him, I said, "Hey, bring her in." And so she came in, and she was like, "I just don't want to think about not being able to be here for my son."
Wow.
And I said, okay. So I looked at him and I said, so how do you feel when she say that? He said, man, that hurt. And then I said, listen, you are reminding her of her childhood. If she's already told you that she's had a history of domestic violence, and yet you're yelling at her, trying to assert your dominance, then that's not cool. You know, and
Mhm.
you can't do stuff like that. How are you gonna love somebody but you want to control them at the same time?
Absolutely.
And you're controlling her because you have temper tantrums, and you know if your temper tantrums are what's scaring her, then you continue to do it because you want your way. He looked at me, and you could just see the tears well up in his eyes. And after she left, after she left, he came back the following day. He was like, "Man,
Mhm.
I've never ever thought of that like that." And
Yeah.
I've never thought of it. And I just say, you know, sometimes you can't use the same way that you was raised, because I'm pretty sure that you was yelled at. You know, you didn't like the way that felt. So since you know how it feel, why would you do that to the mother of your son? You know, why would you do that to somebody that you supposedly love? Like that's something you can't do, because you know the guy that killed my sister told her that he loved her, but he kept jumping on her, and then he
Right.
ultimately told her that he was gonna kill her, and actually did it. You know, so
That's
you know you got to
crazy.
be careful with what you do and what you say. You got to match what you know. They got to match. You know, and he
Right.
continued to come back. He was one of the guys that I was just like, you know what, maybe I can, you know, getting into that arena of working with people who may not see that they're being abusive.
Right.
That's a
And
that's
then
a
I
space.
started
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
That's a space that that we don't
So then
often get to in the
go ahead.
conversation. I was saying that's a space we don't often get to in this conversation. We highlight what abuse looks like, and that's for a lot of us. Big picture, it's easy to see that. Oh, it's the yelling, it's the violence, it's it's the asserting your dominance. But getting to that space of really doing the reflection and being able to not only look at violence from an outward view of what someone else is doing, but getting to that space of starting to see the ways in which we are perpetuating that on people that we genuinely do care and love on is one of the spaces that we felt like Donnell and I talking about how important this is, we got to bring to the forefront, because we, especially as men, don't often have that opportunity to really dive into our feelings that deep enough to really bring ourselves out of that. And so what I'm asking is, how do we do that in a space where we're already behind the curve of understanding and valuing the power of working with a therapist like yourself? What can we do in the now, in the today, in our own homes, in our own space to even start that process?
First and foremost, we got to get away from, excuse me, we have to move away from tradition. Tradition has said a man is not supposed to feel. Tradition has said that a man is supposed to be the provider. The man is supposed to, take certain things, and a man is supposed to be strong, is supposed to be silent. We have to understand that men and women have the same exact feelings. There isn't any difference. And until we do that, we're gonna have a divided culture, we're gonna have a divided community, and we're gonna have all the societal problems that we're continuing to have now, because they're cycles. We have to allow men to express their emotions without being condescending or dismissing their emotions, or how some people get when they say, oh, you a man, you don't supposed to do that, you a man, you're supposed to be able to take it. Or if a man is emotional, oh, he can't handle me. But at the end of the day, men and women experience abuse at the same rate.
Right.
Here in Oklahoma County in 2020, we had 88 deaths as a result of domestic violence, and 45 of them were men, and the rest were women. Oh yeah, it's a real problem. And when I look at the organizations that are here, and I look at the field of domestic violence, we're continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. And that's what led me to start my own organization. I wanted to be innovative, I wanted to be effective, and I wanted to be able to show people that love can exist and you don't have to live in trauma. Like one of my sayings is, trauma is not a life sentence. And the levels of trauma that a person, a man or a woman, experiences in domestic violence is astronomical. And I use that term for a reason, because it is a huge portion of fear, hurt, disappointment, resentment, hate, all pointed towards self.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Say
man.
that again.
Yeah, I think the greatest relationship you should start with should be a relationship with yourself. We expect people to fill in the gaps within us. And that's the reason why a lot of relationships are fear-based, and a lot of them are based on codependency. Because a lot of times we're looking for someone outside of us to complement something that's within us, instead of looking within us to fix what's wrong with us, or that the stages of development that can bring us into a state of wholeness, so we can have something greater to offer in a state of completeness.
Yeah, we gotta start breaking the trauma bonds, man. Trauma bonds are something that, just think about it. Like, you could meet somebody, and let's say if your dad was absent, and then you meet with another person, their dad was absent. You say, oh, you know what? My dad was absent too. And that is where the bond begins. See, we have some relationships and marriages that aren't really love ties, soul ties, I meant. They're trauma bonds. And that's Excuse me. And that's why they're going to see cycles of arguing, cycles of yelling,
Insecurity.
cycles
Yeah.
of insecurity, jealousy,
Yeah.
um, manipulation. All of that
Mm.
comes from somebody who is trauma bonded. So codependency is a form of trauma bonding. So
Mm-hmm.
we as a community have to stop trying to ignore trauma because they feel like trauma makes you seem weak. That ain't
Right.
got nothing to do with your mental health. We need to refrain from using the word strong or use it within its correct context. Strength
Right.
has everything to do with you're physically able to do and physically able to endure. It has absolutely nothing to do with your mentality. It's about being
Mm.
resilient. It is about
Yes.
having the ability to overcome. When you are deemed strong in our community, you don't get help. People will say, "Oh, you got it," but you're dying on the inside. See, people don't understand that your body can be your casket, and you don't have to be in the ground. You could be walking
Mhm.
around here and walking around. You could be a walking casket because your insides are dead. And that's what happens when you're trauma bond with people. It emotionally drains you. It is excessive fear. You are afraid to accomplish your goals. You won't ever accomplish what you want to accomplish or be what you want to be until you start to heal from the trauma. It's not
Bro,
And
that
that's
difficult.
that's amazing, bro.
yeah,
That is amazing, bro.
it's so important to unpack that, right? And to be able to be in a space where you feel um, that there's safety and that there is support,
Yeah.
so that you can really work through that. Because what I'm hearing you talk about are not just ignoring those feelings of discomfort and fear and pain and hurt and loss, but we've got to learn to confront them and look at them and stand there with them and with other people in
Right.
order to
We
really heal.
got right. I got another term I use is when you hear people talking about what they're going through, they're often going to resort to the things that traumatize them in their life.
Mhm.
The i.e. the victim mentality.
Yeah.
However, it's what you grow through is what we should be looking at. What you
Right.
grow through. If you are growing, you have no time to look back at the things that happen to you. You become resilient. It's what you grow through. And everything that we do, there's a opportunity for us to grow through any circumstances or situation. First, I would encourage people who want a different life, who wants a life without trauma, who wants to be in a healthy relationship or marriage, who wants to feel emotionally and mentally free, to
Mm.
begin your healing process. Begin your healing process. Recognize that you are a human being first and foremost, regardless if you are a man or a woman. You deserve the right to live your life in peace. Peace is the ultimate goal of any relationship, of any marriage. It's not about what vacation you can take, because you can take a
Mhm.
vacation, but you can still live in trauma.
Straight up.
Recognize when you are responding from trauma. See, a lot of our relationships has a foundation of trauma responses. Trauma
Mm.
responses are ways you respond to stimuli in your marriage or relationship from your traumatic childhood, adolescent, or something that may have traumatized you at any point in life. But because you felt like you were okay, you felt like you didn't need any type of help, but you continue to live in a relationship or a marriage that one, you're in fear of, that you are afraid of rejection. You want to be accepted, but you don't feel like you deserve to be accepted. You want to be in control just to say that you have a possession.
Right.
These are things that batterers or abusive men and women think because they
Absolutely.
have the same behavioral patterns. Male and female abusers have the same behavioral patterns, meaning they will abuse you the the same way. There isn't any difference, you know. And I'm gonna touch on, growing up, when you are taught that no matter what, if a girl hits you, you better not hit her back because she's a girl. So that teaches the little boy either to be a victim, allow this woman to hit him no matter how hard she hit him, and she can probably kill him, which the numbers don't lie. Or it teaches this boy that he got to hit her first. He got to fight back because he don't want to be hit. Traumatized people traumatize people. And let's not forget that within our homes where there are single parents, there are excessive levels of emotional abuse that transpires, because, most of the time it's going to be a mother and her kids. And there are times where there's a father and his kids. And you got life stresses and you come home and your kids is not doing what you want them to do. So you begin to yell, cuss at them, scream at them, having them doing unrealistic expectations that you don't even do yourself or didn't do. We have to get to a place in our community where, one, we recognize our young men as human beings. And two, we learn that teamwork makes the dream work. See, even in an abusive relationship, there's no teamwork because you got one person that wants to own or be the team. And he or she is willing to hurt you to prove that they are the leader. But when you have teamwork, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's just crazy to think that how often trauma happens, and we usually associate it more with relationships in regards to spouses than we do with children. It's just like a woman seeing the son as her mate, as a spouse, versus it actually being your son and feeling the need to control it. And I've seen that with a lot of young men that I've mentored, where it's like the mother do treat the child like, yo, like y'all, you're not together, right? This is your child, right? And I see that a lot, you know what I'm saying? And vice versa, bro. It's huge.
But that's that mother parenting from a traumatic mind state. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, is trauma in everything? And then boom, here comes slavery. I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Trauma, the identity of, and let me say this clearly, the identity of African American or the African American community is trauma.
Sure.
That's what we are, traumatized. African American or Black people are some of the scariest people on the planet because we live in fear. And it's easy for us to be oppressed, within our community. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen to others. I don't know. I just know that the community that I live in, it's easy for us to live in oppression. It's easy for us to follow ideations that control us, and let's talk about spiritual abuse. Do you know how many pastors that are currently abusing their wives? And in our community, we uphold the pastor on a high pedestal, and you better not, say anything bad about the pastor. Or how many pastors are telling people to stay in abusive relationships? You know how many, and they using the Bible, the same Bible they didn't say it's the book of life. How are you using the book of life to cause somebody to live in a life of death?
Right.
How are you using the book of life to encourage somebody to live a life filled with death?
Yeah. Wow. What's crazy is like the thing that's supposed to set you free is actually bonded you in captivity.
Absolutely.
Unconsciously. So it makes me wonder, like, how many relationships would truly exist if it was not based on the premise of control?
A lot of them, because we could base it on the premise of peace. We won't even have a lot of violence if we had our relationship to be in peace. Relationships are the most important concept ever. We wouldn't even be here today without a relationship.
I agree.
So we need to place more emphasis on the relationship versus the title of marriage.
Absolutely.
And I know this ain't no disrespect to people who are married. Do what you do. I don't have any problem with what you do. I love you still. But I will tell you this, if you don't focus on the relationship, your marriage is going to be unhealthy. And there is a possibility. It's not impossible for us to have healthy relationships. We can have them.
Absolutely.
You know, we just get comfortable in chaos. You get comfortable in chaos. So now people wonder how you end up with an abuser after you leave an abuser. Is because you become trauma bonded within that abuse.
Right.
And you learn to go ahead.
And what's crazy is that no matter what form of healthy you have in your life, the smallest thing will always go back to that frame of reference, fam.
Yep.
I've noticed this, but before I started my journey of healing, it can be anything. It can be my wife saying, "Hey, did you take out the trash?" And all of a sudden, I'm taken back to something that happened with my father coming in, hitting my sister, right? Beating my sister, me having to defend my sister, or a man, beating on me because of something my mom said, or even my mom, fam. And no matter where you at in your reality, once you get triggered, it's not even the real experience of what you have going on there, but it's all the way back to when it first happened, and we don't recognize it. It derails everything in our lives.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. They tell you that finances can kill a marriage. Trauma is the #1 killer of your relationship.
Facts.
And trauma is the #1 killer of your relationships. Yeah. Because if you're living in fear, what trauma is, you don't get to know the real person. Yeah. You just know a fearful person.
There's something there, man.
And
there's something there about that. When you talk about, you brought up something that is a usual trope for us, is that money and finance is at the center of marriage loss at the highest rate. And you've really gone deeper to really point out that it is the trauma and the bond of trauma to money and our financial history and our experiences that are at the root of it. And I think speaking on that is really the space we got to move into, because if we talk about what trauma is, like the trauma that I've had in my financial life, growing up where poor was the mainstay. So always being in fear of not having enough money is what I bring into my relationship. And that fear, and basing my decisions, basing my reactions, basing my interactions in the most sensitive spaces and places in our time and our trials at growth is really what it means that money is at the center. No, it's the trauma that I'm carrying or that a partner is carrying related to how we relate with each other with money. And that's the space we really got to get the work in. So thank you so much for saying that, man.
That's dope.
I mean, cheating. They talked about cheating. Think about it. You cheat because you want to feel accepted. Right. Again, that comes from trauma. Anything that's maladaptive comes from trauma. And I quote this. So this is me. And I have been practicing therapy for 14 years. And I have seen a lot, and I have the ability to put things together to get a better understanding. Everything that we do is rooted in trauma. Think about let's talk briefly, and I don't want to step on no toes, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Think about Christianity. Think about how they told you Jesus died on the cross, how they showed you the movies of violence and him getting hit and the thorn on his head, the nails in his hand. Think about how traumatic that is.
Man, it's true.
You think so God is love, but God has to traumatize us in order for us to understand that he's real or understand that there's a creator. You know what I'm saying? Like, trauma will allow you to continue to be oppressed when the gate to the cell is open. It will make you stay in that cell because it's comfortable. And until we start to look at these ideations, look at these traditions, look at where they came from, and do the opposite, we're going to continue to be oppressed without the whips and chains.
Absolutely.
This is a space I want you to speak on, bro. Especially because our platform is men, right? And when we talk about modern manhood and wanting to bring resources and to bring ideas to help us to grow and to move, we've walked delicately in this space, because when we talk about domestic violence, the cultural, the cultural view of it is men battering women.
Right.
How can we talk to men right now and say, all right, bro, we see you? Because we did a post in the past couple of days asking men to simply say whether or not they've been on the receiving end of domestic abuse or domestic violence. And it's funny because we're in a private men group, right?
Yep.
Where we posted the same question. And you can see publicly that there's not much chatter, but in our private group where we've provided a safe space for men to really talk about it and share their feelings with one another non-judgmentally, there's a lot more talk, and there's a lot more people who are willing to say, men who are willing to say, yeah, I've been on that receiving end of it. So help us. I want you to talk to those guys right now who are unfortunately suffering silently. How do what yeah.
All right.
We got guys that's on our Facebook Live that's asking questions too.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
Listen.
So Kelly said,
let me tell you something.
Do you believe a trauma bond can become a soul tie as well?
Yes, and I say that because it's gonna first, if both partners are aware of their trauma and they are on the path to healing, then yes, it can become a soul tie. Because the trauma bond will be broken. When you stop responding from trauma, then your trauma bond is broken.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what I would like to say,
the Bible says love covers a multitude of sins. I believe love is a thing that heals people, but it takes openness to receive love. And fear is openness. Yeah. You got to be receptive to it.
Peace.
You got to be receptive. Peace does,
right.
but also gratitude, because it's a higher vibrational force that allows us to be receptive, just like in a relationship and being vulnerable. The thing, and I think we got to be conscious of using the words victim mentality too, because I think as far as men, we don't like to express how we truly feel in being vulnerable because we don't want to look like a victim. So there's a thin balance between us having a victim mentality where it's a woe is me versus you know what, I don't want nobody to feel sorry for me, so I'm gonna suffer in silence, and actually being in a position where we can express it and recognize that being vulnerable is a healthy thing, even when it's uncomfortable.
So what I would say to any man, first, you got to recognize when your partner is being abusive. And listen, they about to get, let me put you up on game.
This is good.
If your partner is not helping you financially with your bills, and I know each household is different, and they're watching you work as a man, that's not okay. You shouldn't have to put everything in that household because it's two people in that household that should be working together as a team. Do you understand that the reason that you have stress is financial? It don't matter how much money you make. Listen, another thing, I know you've been taught to chase women growing up, or you prove to that woman why you should be in her life because you're this great man. You can't be a man if you're not a human being. You don't have to give your value to no person, woman, or whoever you decide to be with. Do not give your value away. That creates insecurities, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and it will hinder you from every goal that you try to set because you spend the rest of your life proving to a person why you should be in their life. You have just as much value as the person that you're with. You have value. You don't need to chase anybody. Do not chase anybody, because what happens when you chase a person, they will never respect or appreciate you. I said that. They would never respect or appreciate anything that you do. Never. So do not chase. It's okay to keep your own value. It's okay to be confident. And if you are in a situation where your woman does not respect your emotions or feelings, that's abusive. If you're in a situation where your woman is calling you names or belittling you or being condescending towards you, you are in an abusive situation and you do not deserve that at all. And if you need someone to talk to, somebody who actually understands the concept of domestic violence between men and women and men, then feel free to inbox me or contact me on any platform that you see me on. And I promise you that trauma is not a life sentence, and you cannot just ignore the fact that you have had trauma. We got to heal together. We have to heal together. We will be a better community if we learn to heal. Listen, the progression of our community is not solely based on what men do. It's what we do, men and women. It's what we do. Stop taking on a burden that's going to cause you depression, anxiety, PTSD. Be upfront. Tell your person how you're feeling. Talk to them. And if they can accept you and understand you for being a human being, then that is a person that is not ready for you.
Wow.
They're just not ready for you. Remember, don't chase. You don't have to prove to nobody why you should be in their life.
Absolutely.
You don't have to prove that. Don't chase.
You know what's crazy is all you got to do is attract. But that's even crazy to think that trauma bonding usually is a result of something that we've attracted into our life because of things that we've dealt with internally.
Yep. Yeah. You know, a trauma bonds, you get in these relationships and you start to, you trauma bonding with a person, you start to expect that person to heal you through your trauma. You got two traumatized people trying to heal themselves, heal the other person without looking at them, without looking at themselves. That's just like Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder leading themselves through a cave. How they gonna get out? You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta stop that, man. It's time for us to do stuff different. Because
as much as I agree with that, man, I'm gonna pull you back on that one, because that example of the blind leading the blind, that's a whole different conversation. But it is something that I know that is amazing and extraordinary experience to know about. And I'm saying this because my wife works with the blind community, and so I'm not going to take away from the beauty and the strength of people who absolutely can find themselves out of a cave when there's no eyes.
For sure, absolutely.
Right? I'm gonna say that, but I'm gonna tell you what you're saying right now is God. It's life changing, man. It's life changing. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Hey, so while we're there, tell us about the event.
Absolutely.
Because you did say blind leading blind, but actually we got people with vision that's leading people into helping them understanding that healing is possible. Healing is possible. And as you guys are seeing, Clinton said his sister died at this, you guys. So that's like, I love my sisters. Every single sister I got in my life, I love them to death. So, bro, thank you for being courageous enough to not just be someone that's wounded in this space, but I'm grateful that you actually understand and you're using your own story and your testimony to help other people overcome. Because there are a lot of people that are seeking refuge. And when I first met Clinton, his dream, and I believe it's going to happen, was to build like not just an apartment complex, but businesses, resources in a district where people who are facing domestic violence will have a place to come, they can get a job, they can rebuild their life in a form of fashion. This is something that we don't really see often in our society, because usually when people happen, when an experience happens, people identify themselves as the experience. But it's not too often that a person says, you know what, I love this, and because this is something that's happened in my life, how can I help other people champion this and overcome this and heal together? So tell us about your event that you're doing.
So October the 23rd and 24th, we will be on the at the Devon Boathouse. We're gonna sail up the Oklahoma River. It's Let's Heal, and it's a trauma release brunch. So it's about healing. We are going to heal. On the 23rd and 24th, there's going to be some people on that boat that are going to begin their healing process. So we're going to have a panel of speakers that's going to talk about trauma, what it is, and how to recognize it. That's on the first day. We're also going to have brunch and mimosas. The second day, we're going to have a keynote speaker, which will be myself, on recognizing and overcoming trauma from personal experiences and how I was able to overcome them. Then after I speak, we're gonna have balloons that have are different colors. They're gonna be colors of like domestic violence is purple, PTSD is like teal, mental health is green. You know, we're gonna have those balloons, and the participants will write their specific trauma on the balloons. And we're going to go to the deck of the boat and we will release them into the sky. We're going to heal. It's going to be an amazing, amazing event. right now we're also looking for sponsors so we can make the event free. So, and all we're asking for is a sponsorship of one ticket for one person, and it could be a victim of a car accident, or a victim of domestic violence, or a victim of any type of trauma that that's impacting life. Because we believe that trauma is not a life sentence, and we're going to show you that it is.
Absolutely, that's dope, man.
Yes, that's awesome.
So I just donated, so we got to make sure we got donate information to be able to donate to that. That way we can help sponsor that event for you as well, bro. That's tight.
You can go to, if you wanted to donate for the event, which I know I have a Facebook thing too, Facebook fundraiser going on, but you can go to www.clintonspeaks.com, www.clintonspeaks.com. And you can the Eventbrite is on there as well. You could donate there. We have about 26 spots available. So if you know anyone that is willing to participate and donate any amount, we accept that as well. We'll make it work to what we need to do to make sure that we are not only encouraging healing, but being a stapler in, healing, period. Because Absolutely. It's time for us to break this cycle of trauma. It's time for us to live in peace. That song came out, Living Your Best Life. Yeah, okay. They sung that song for a minute. It ain't been hot now, right now, huh? Right. Yeah, it's gone now. So, at first you heard everybody singing Living Your Best Life, even the people who had trauma. Living your best life. I know that's right. So now, let's heal. I also have a song that I was able to write, and I had a group of artists that were amazing. It's called Let's Heal. I'm trying to do it. Like, I'm going to do it. We will heal. You walking around me, we healing today. You're going to heal today.
That's dope.
Thank you for that, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. What a platform.
Yes, sir.
So we can find you at clintonspeaks.com, right? Also on Facebook. You guys are hearing that this event is coming up.
Yes,
it's or an amazing event for healing. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. But just know that whatever you donate, or if somebody donates something you can't afford to pay or whatever, you got to go register on Eventbrite, and we'll make it happen. I believe wholeheartedly in healing, and healing in the actually reality of healing. I'm not asking you to pray about it. I'm not asking you to pray about it at all. I'm asking you to take control of your life. I'm asking you to help someone else take control of their life, because sometimes helping people helps you too. So
Absolutely.
I'm not asking for you to break your bank or nothing like that. I'm just asking so that we can have the ability to provide healing to people who may not be able to afford it. Absolutely. And they and it's very much deserved. And this is something that I plan on doing monthly. So
nice.
Yeah, we about to make some things happen. We're in the process of doing it now. Like, I'm feeling really good about it. I'm excited, because it is different. And I know that you got to be innovative when you want change. And you can't keep people in the same environment and expect them to change.
Facts.
So it's time to just get out of that environment.
Yeah, facts.
Thank you for that, brother. Thank you. Guys, if you're not, first I want to say, anybody who's watching this, thank you. Let us know some comments. Let us know, the inspiration that he's bringing to the table. There was a lot of information that we can take with us right now and walk and live in a healthier and happier life. We want to welcome you guys to the Man Cave. Listen, this Modern Manhood platform that Donnell and I really put together, we are proud of the work that's already going on there. We're proud of the connections. We're proud of the resources. Clint, having you in there, your insight and your knowledge and your passion has been such a great addition to, to the community that we're building right now. So we want to thank you for that. And everybody who's watching this, keep on the lookout. We've got a lot of amazing events and opportunities to heal and grow and work together and build the family and the life and the community that we want to see. So keep your eyes open. If you haven't, check out our website at manhoodmasterclass.com. fellas, if you are not in the man cave, this is your opportunity and your invitation to come and join in a space that we particularly curated for you to be able to have confidence and comfort and safety that you can heal and express and talk and think and work through and connect with other like-minded men who want to see a healthier and happier self and a healthier, happier community. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. Check out our other episodes. We'll be bringing you more people, more opportunities to talk about things that need to come to the table so that we can live and be our best selves. Donnell, what things do we have coming up on the Modern Manhood side that we need to keep in mind before we check out?
Man, so look, we got a fitness challenge coming up, which you guys don't know. Can I go ahead and tell them?
Absolutely, man.
All right. And let me say this too. I am grateful, man, that we had this conversation. I didn't realize that when we posted it yesterday on a public page, it was very few people that said, I have been through this. And then in a private page, a lot more men said, I have, which I'm grateful because that just shows us that men are feeling comfortable in private spaces where they do recognize they have a voice. So Clinton, thanks for saying that. Thanks for saying that, man, you got value. You don't always got to be chasing to find your value and your security. Thank you for telling us what abuse looked like, because a lot of times we don't know what abuse looked like. I know I've been involved in some abusive relationships where I did not know what abuse looked like until, I'm grateful for my wife, but until I got around my wife and she said, hey, babe, look, I've studied psychology and this is probably not the best way to handle this, right? And so I'm grateful that she is like you, a psych major, where she was able to speak into my life for me to be like, dang, you know what? Maybe I'm not doing this the right way. Shout out to my boy Luke, who said the same thing. Luke said the same thing. He said, bro, I definitely had to realize I can't raise my child the way I was raised, right? And so these are men that are being able to say, man, you know what? I don't have it all together. I'm grateful for my upbringing because it exposed me to some things. And I'm grateful that now I'm around men who can actually give us resources and tools to overcome these things. You cannot live your best life if it's driven by trauma, bar none. That was the message of this. But anyway, so we got a fitness challenge coming up, you guys. My man, Dr. Davis, is teaching Tai Chi. We got Cody Madison that's going to be teaching us a workout. Emmanuel Sasaniel is going to be teaching us. We got somebody that's going to be teaching us yoga. I think we have a Zumba instructor as well.
Absolutely, and he's dope, man.
So look, if you guys love fitness, we got 5 or 6 different instructors who is going to take us through a different workout over the next few weeks. And as you see, I've never done Zumba before, so it's going to be something new. I've never done Tai Chi before. I just got destroyed doing some HIIT this morning by my coach. All right, so we have some coaches in our group that's going to help us level up and doing things we never done before. As you guys seen, Clinton has his event coming up. So if you all would like to sponsor, he posted the information on how to sponsor. We do have the Man Cave event coming up the last Monday, which I'm gonna start posting that as well. So we'll have our next gathering as well. So I would love for you all men to be a part of this. Also, if you know somebody that can benefit from being in the Man Cave, invite them. I do want to share one last thing. There was a woman that was invited to our group. I don't know how Dr. David invited her, but she posted yesterday. I don't know how I got, she said, I don't know how I got invited to this group, but she said, I wanted to share something. And she shared something that said, most men are dying inside because we feel like we have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And we have not been taught how to effectively express it. And she said, men, I wanted to share this article with you all to let you know that you're loved and that you should express how you feel, because we don't want to see our men dying. And when I seen this article, I was like, man, this is beautiful. But I was like, who invited this girl to this group, right? So I sent her a message and I said, hey, thank you so much for posting that article. It was beautiful. I don't know how you got invited. Damon invited you. And she says, I don't know how, but I've been in this group for a long time. And she said, you guys are doing an amazing job. And I thought, man, that is dope that she was in there, but it was great to hear from a woman. I appreciate what you are doing for the men in the group. And just so you men know, we would not be able to do this without you. It's because of you. It's because the great leaders that's in our group, we're able to do these amazing things that a lot of people probably would never experience. There are people every day that's dying in domestic violence. There's people that are dying every day to poor health. There are people that's dying financially, right? There are people every day that's being driven by trauma. We have the opportunity to change our lives, to change our children's lives, to change generations. I had to get off here because my daughter came in here and said, Dad, can I have your book? Because I'm going to school and I want to read it. And I think about how much trauma I expressed in my book, right? From seeing my mother abused, from seeing my sisters abused, from me being in abusive relationships, right? Me being on both ends. I've never hit a woman, but I've been mentally abused before. I've been the abuser, right? I've been the verbal abuser. I've been these aspects of my life, but I'm grateful that it was leaders that saw value in me that said, Donnell, I want to lead you out of this. I want to be able to show you opportunities for development. And this would not be available had it not been for people like you guys. So I want to say I love you. I really appreciate what you do because this is huge in our lives, right? We have the opportunity to transfer generations, you guys. And this is really being healing to our culture, not just religion, because religion has been perpetuated for a long time, but this is relationship. This is tools. This is what we need to level up and really live our best lives. So I appreciate you guys that's tuned in.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. Next time on our Friday chat.
Y'all have a
John.
blessed
Thanks for
Friday.
having me.
All right, peace.
Peace.